Okay, hello and welcome to Module 1, Lesson 5 of Engage New York with Mrs. Richards. Today we are going to talk about negative exponents and what to do with them and what they mean. To start off, we're going to start on page 17 of Module 1. And I'd like everyone to write in their own example here, either at the top or down at the bottom here. And the example I'd like to write in is 8 to the negative 3 power. So what I want to show you, first and foremost, that is if you have a calculator and you type in 8 to the negative 3 power, which I'll show you here on mine. If you type this in, maybe, 8 caret negative 3 equals, you get this decimal 0.001953,125. So the first thing I want to point out is that a negative exponent doesn't necessarily mean a negative number. It means a really small number. But the decimal version is not what we're going for today. We are going to write using exponents that are positive. So 8 to the negative 3 power, the way that we get this without the negative is we make a fraction out of it. And what we do is we take this 8 to the negative 3 and we put it in the denominator of the fraction, and we get rid of that negative sign. So it's 8 to the third, and we put a 1 on top. And this is called exponential notation right here. This is sometimes if we don't want them in simplified form, we leave them like this. Now, I want to show you that this also, we can ask for simplified form. And what that means is that we will simplify it further. It would be 1 over, and then we will use our calculator to do 8 caret 3 and get 512. So 8 to the third power is really 512. And so this is our simplified form. So 8 to the negative third power is really 1/512. And we're going to use this method as we go through today. So in the essence of time, I would like you to please skip now to page 18 already, and down to exercise 5 is where we're going to go. Okay, so for exercise 5, we have a very similar problem to what we started with, 5 to the negative third power. So in order to write this in an equivalent expression in exponential notation and simplified, we are going to do the following. Anytime there's a negative exponent, we're going to start by making a fraction bar. We will take the base with the negative exponent and put it at the bottom, or the denominator of the fraction. So 5 to the third goes at the bottom, and we're going to put a 1 at the top because we can't leave the numerator blank. So this would be exponential notation. If it asks us to simplify, then we would use our calculator to do the bottom, 5 caret 3, which is 125, and the top 1 is already simplified. So 5 to the negative third is really 1 over 125. Okay, moving on. Exercise 6. Again, we want to write it in exponential notation. Well, number 6, there aren't any negatives. So this right here is already exponential notation. And the only thing we can do to go further is write it in simplified notation. So we would do 1 over, and we have to do 8 to the 9th power in here. So 8 caret 9, don't forget, that's 8 multiplied by itself 9 times. Wow, that's 134,217,728 as our denominator. So that is a really small number, 1 over 8 ninths. If we wanted that in an equivalent form as a negative, it would be 8 to the negative 9 power. Okay, so we need to be able to go back and forth through these 3 versions. Okay, moving on, in the second little row here, we're down to exercise 7. And what they will do now is they're going to add another piece to the puzzle. So what happens if we have another number in front of our exponent, our negative exponent? Well, let's not forget that there's really a positive 1 exponent on this first 3. And now we have that negative 4. So we see this negative 4. That means we have to have a fraction bar. We'll take our 2 to the negative 4 and put it on the bottom and make it positive. And our positive exponent, 3 to the 1, is going to go in the top now. So in exponential notation, that's 3 to the 1 over 2 to the 4th. If we go a step further, 3 to the 1 is just 3. And 2 to the 4th gives you 16, and that's what this equals. So I wrote another example in. I'm calling it example 7.5, and you should too. And that would be 5x to the negative 7 power. Okay, so the idea is to get rid of that negative 7. We know that there's a negative exponent, so you want to write a fraction bar. And let's not forget that 5x really is 5 times x. There's really 2 terms here. This is 5 to the 1, x to the negative 7. Well, 5 to the 1 power is a positive exponent that goes on the numerator then. And x to the negative 7 is negative. We want to make it positive, so we put it on the denominator. Now, this cannot be simplified further other than taking the 1 off of the 5. But otherwise, we keep it in exponential form because we don't know what x is yet. So that's our only option in this case. Moving on to exercise 8 then, we have x to the negative 3. And so very similar to the one before, we want to start with a fraction bar because of the negative. We're going to put x to the 3rd power on the bottom, and there's nothing left, but we cannot leave that numerator with nothing on it, and so we put a 1. And so that is our answer because, again, we don't know what x is. Moving down to exercise 10, we're actually going to skip 9 for now. Moving to exercise 10, we have xy to the negative 4 power. Again, these get confusing for students because they forget that xy is not 1 term but 2. There's really a hidden 1 on that x there. So because of the negative, we make the fraction bar. X positive 1 goes on the top, and the y negative 4 goes on the bottom, except for it turns into a positive when it goes there. Okay? One more example for you to try that I wrote in, example 10.5, would be 6x to the negative 4, y to the 3rd. So I'd love for you to go ahead and write that in and try it on your own. My hint to you is that there has to be a fraction bar because of the negative, and also there is a hidden exponent here that you need to put in. We will come back to that one before I end the video so you can check your answer. But we do need to move on to our last concept, which is on page 19. And we're going to write our own example in at the top like we usually do. And the example I'll have you write in here is at the top somewhere 3 to the 2nd power over 3 to the 4th power. And what we do with this. So if you remember a couple lessons ago, we learned that if there's a fraction with the same base number, we can simply subtract exponents. So that's what we're going to do here. 3 to the 2nd power over 3 to the 4th, we're going to keep our base of 3, and we're going to subtract our exponents, fraction subtraction, 2 minus 4, but we get negative 2. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Now, we don't want that negative exponent, so we're going to use what we just learned to go one step further and simplify. To get rid of the negative exponent, we make a fraction bar, and we're going to put 3 to the 2nd power at the bottom then, and a 1 on top. And this is really what we're looking for in exponential form, or we can go even one step further and simplify it and make it 1 over 9, as 3 to the 2nd power is 9. So the idea is we always do the top exponent minus the bottom, and if it comes out negative, now we know to take it one step further to get rid of that negative. So moving to the exercises here, we've got exercise 11 and 12 that I'd love to look at. Exercise 11, let's start there. So 11 says 19 to the second power over 19 to the fifth power. So we will keep that base of 19, and we will subtract 2 minus 5 and get negative 3. And now, although that's technically correct, we want to simplify it further. We don't want negative exponents, so we're going to make a fraction bar like we showed in the last examples. We'll take that negative and make it positive at the denominator of the fraction with a 1 on top. And you can simplify that further by doing 19 to the third power. For the sake of the video, we're just going to leave it in exponential form, and that's our answer, 1 over 19 to the third. Finally, they get tricky here. 17 to the 16th power over 17 to the negative third power. Yep, we're keeping our base of 17. Well, 16 minus negative 3, if you remember from 7th grade math, minus a negative really turns into adding. So this is now 17 to the 19th power. No negative exponents, so we do not have to go any further. We get to keep our answer 17 to the 19th power. And that is the last concept for today. Going back just for a quick second, let's talk about what you got for exercise 10.5 for those of you that tried it here. So exercise 10.5 that we added, what you should have gotten was our fraction bar with our 6 to the 1 power on the top. X to the 4 power goes on the bottom because of the negative, and y to the third on the top. There was a little 1 on that 6, and here is our answer. Okay, that concludes our lesson for Module 1, Lesson 5 for the day. The homework that for my classes that I have is in the link below on the Moodle page. It's called Negative Exponents and looks like this. And you can find it there. Hope you all have a great day, and we will see you for the next lesson.